Grace Miller stared at the ceiling of her Boston apartment, unable to sleep despite the exhaustion weighing on her body. Outside, autumn winds rattled the windows of her century-old brownstone, but it wasn't the weather keeping her awake. For the third night in a row, her mind was consumed by the same recurring dream, so vivid that it felt less like fantasy and more like memory. In the dream, she walked barefoot through dust and heat, her hands weathered and calloused. Nothing like her modern manicured fingers that now clutched her cotton sheets. She felt the weight of wooden beams upon her shoulders, heard the crack of a whip in the distance, and tasted the bitter grit of sand between her teeth. Most disturbing of all was the overwhelming sense of purpose, a desperate need to complete something before her time ran out. Grace rolled over, pressing her face into the pillow. At 35, she had built a successful career as a historical researcher at the university library, but lately, something felt missing. Her rational academic mind insisted the dreams were merely manifestations of stress, perhaps influenced by the ancient texts she handled daily. Yet a deeper part of her sensed something more profound at work. The first signs had appeared 3 months ago during a routine cataloging project. She'd discovered a collection of rare books on metaphysics, including several volumes documenting the psychic readings of Edgar Cayce. Something about Cayce's descriptions of past lives and soul journeys had resonated with her in a way she couldn't explain. That night, the dreams began. "Enough," Grace muttered, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. She padded to the kitchen and put the kettle on, knowing sleep was a lost cause. As the water heated, she pulled an old leather journal from her tagatimonis. Inside were notes she'd been taking, at first academically, then obsessively, about her dreams and the strange coincidences that followed. There was the panic attack she'd experienced when visiting a museum exhibition on ancient Egypt, so intense she'd had to be escorted outside. The immediate and inexplicable connection she felt with Jacob, an elderly volunteer at the library, who somehow knew things about her she'd never told anyone. The birthmark on her left shoulder that resembled a burn, which would throb painfully whenever she dreamed of fire. The kettle whistled and Grace prepared her tea with mechanical precision. As she sipped the steaming liquid, she opened her laptop and typed Association for Research and Enlightenment, Virginia Beach. The organization, founded by Edgar Cayce, still existed, continuing his work and preserving his readings. Perhaps there she might find answers. A notification popped up on her screen, an email from Professor Martin, her department head, confirming her sudden request for a sabbatical. Approved. Take the time you need, Grace. Whatever you're searching for, I hope you find it. Grace closed her eyes, feeling both relief and trepidation. For someone who had always prided herself on logical thinking, this journey felt like walking blindfolded off a cliff. Yet something was pulling her forward, the same urgent purpose she felt in her dreams. 3 days later, Grace stood at the entrance of the A.R.E. Center in Virginia Beach, her heart pounding. The modern building seemed ordinary enough, but as she crossed the threshold, a wave of déjà vu washed over her so strongly she had to grasp the doorframe for support. "First time here?" asked a gentle voice. Grace turned to see a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and silver hair. Her name tag read, Eleanor Staff. "Is it that obvious?" Grace attempted a smile. "Everyone has that look when they first arrive," Eleanor said, "like they've found something they didn't know they were looking for." Grace nodded, unable to explain the conflicting emotions churning inside her. "I'm not sure why I'm here, to be honest. I've been having these dreams." "You're exactly where you need to be," Eleanor assured her. "The library is through those doors. Many find their answers there." In the quiet solitude of the extensive library, Grace lost track of time. She moved between shelves instinctively, as if guided by an invisible hand. When she finally settled at a reading table, her arms were full of books, volumes on reincarnation, karma, and the Akashic records. As she opened the first book, a slip of paper fell to the floor. It was a faded bookmark with a handwritten quote, "Souls return to Earth again and again to fulfill the purpose they have set for themselves, to become more godlike." Grace's hands trembled as she recognized the handwriting, identical to her own. That evening, she attended a guided meditation session at the center. The room was dimly lit with candles, soft music playing in the background. A dozen people sat in a circle, eyes closed, following the facilitator's soothing voice. "Breathe deeply and imagine yourself descending a staircase," the facilitator instructed. "With each step, you travel deeper into your consciousness, step closer to your soul's memories. Grace followed the guidance, skepticism battling with curiosity. At first, she was acutely aware of her surroundings, the cushion beneath her, the distant sound of waves from the beach, the occasional cough from another participant. But gradually, the room faded away. In her mind's eye, the staircase led to a vast library. Not the modern research facilities she was accustomed to, but an ancient hall with scrolls and stone tablets. A figure stood waiting, face obscured in shadow. "You've returned," the figure said. "Are you ready to remember?" Before Grace could respond, images flooded her consciousness. A life as a stonemason in ancient Egypt, working on a temple dedicated to healing. Another as a midwife in medieval Europe, persecuted for her healing knowledge. A brief existence. As a wounded soldier in the Civil War, dying young but comforted by a nurse with familiar eyes. And through each life, a common thread. A quest for understanding, for healing, for knowledge that would serve humanity. Each time, the work unfinished. Each time, the soul returning to continue its purpose. When the meditation ended, Grace opened her eyes to find tears streaming down her face. The facilitator knelt beside her, concern evident in her expression. "What did you see?" she asked quietly. "Everything," Grace whispered. "I think I understand why I'm here now." Later that night, alone in her hotel room, Grace wrote frantically in her journal, trying to capture every detail before the memories faded. As she wrote, a pattern emerged. In each lifetime, she had been drawn to healing and knowledge, but something had always prevented her from fulfilling her purpose. Fear, persecution, death coming too soon. She paused, pen hovering over paper. If Cayce was right, if these truly were memories of past lives, then her current existence wasn't random. Her academic career, her fascination with ancient texts, even her recurrent dreams, all were echoes of her soul's ongoing journey. For the first time in months, Grace slept peacefully, free from the haunting dreams. In their place came a single clear vision, a path forward, illuminated by the understanding of where she had been. 2 months into her stay at Virginia Beach, Grace sat cross-legged on the shore at dawn, her journal beside her as waves rhythmically washed against the sand. The university had extended her sabbatical, allowing her to immerse herself in Edgar Cayce's world of soul memories and karmic connections. "I thought I'd find you here," came a familiar voice. Jacob, the elderly volunteer from her Boston library, lowered himself onto the sand. His appearance at the A.R.E. Center no longer surprised her. It seemed another thread in the tapestry unfolding around her. "You knew I'd come here all along, didn't you?" she asked. "Some souls can't help but find their way back to the truth," Jacob replied with affection. Your response to Cayce's readings was a clear sign. Grace shared her experiences with past life regression therapy. "I saw us, Jacob. In Egypt. You were a senior scribe and I was your apprentice in the temple's library." She searched his eyes. "Is that why you've always felt familiar?" "Soul groups reunite across lifetimes," Jacob explained. "Some connections are too powerful to be severed by death. We carry our karmic relationships with us, working through lessons together." As if on cue, Grace's phone buzzed with a text from Michael Bennett, her former fiancé whose betrayal 3 years ago had left her emotionally shattered. "I'm in Virginia Beach. Can we talk?" "A coincidence?" she asked Jacob. "In my experience, there are no coincidences on this path." Later, Grace met Michael at an oceanside cafe. After awkward greetings, he noted the change in her. "You look different, lighter somehow." To her surprise, when she explained her experiences with reincarnation, Michael didn't mock her. Instead, he shared his own recurring nightmares since their separation. "I'm always at a crossroads, watching you walk away, knowing I've made a terrible mistake. But it doesn't feel like just this life. It feels older, deeper." During her regression session, Grace had glimpsed another lifetime in medieval Florence, where they were betrothed before he abandoned her to pursue wealth. She died before his return. Michael paled. "In my dreams, I'm always returning somewhere with gifts, only to find it's too late." "What does this mean for us now?" he finally asked. With her new perspective on time and purpose, Grace saw clearly. We have the opportunity to heal an old wound, not by resuming our relationship, but by forgiving each other and releasing the karmic debt. That evening, Grace attended a lecture on the Akashic Records, what Cayce described as the celestial library containing every soul's journey. The speaker emphasized that souls return with specific lessons and gifts carefully chosen before birth. When Grace asked why we don't remember making these choices, the scholar explained, The veil of forgetting serves a purpose. If you remembered everything, all your past achievements and failures, all your karmic debts, you might become paralyzed. Each life must be faced with fresh eyes. That night, Grace dreamed of standing before a council of light beings who told her, "The healing knowledge you seek has always been within you, but fear prevented its expression. In this lifetime, you must overcome that fear. The world needs ancient wisdom in modern times." At dawn, Grace noticed a young woman sobbing at the water's edge. Learning the stranger had just discovered she carried the same cancer marker that killed her mother, Grace felt something activate within her, a knowing beyond intellectual understanding. When the young woman permitted, Grace took her hand and shared healing insights she had never consciously studied in this lifetime. "How did you know exactly what I needed to hear?" the young woman whispered afterward. "I didn't, but your soul did, and mine remembered." Grace realized her soul had returned not just to complete her own journey, but to help others navigate theirs. The web of karma connected them all in the collective evolution of consciousness. That night she wrote, "We return again and again, not just to learn individual lessons, but to teach them. The wisdom gained in one lifetime becomes the gift we offer in the next." This is why souls keep coming back, not as punishment but as purpose, not as obligation but as opportunity. 6 months after first arriving at the A.R.E. Center, Grace sat in her new office, surrounded by books. What had begun as an investigation into recurring dreams had evolved into a complete redirection of her life's work. The university had approved her proposal for a new research initiative combining historical archival methods with the study of consciousness and spiritual texts. On her desk lay the manuscript, Echoes of Eternity, Tracing Soul Memory Through Historical Archives, a bridge between conventional academic research and Edgar Cayce's spiritual wisdom. Eleanor, who had welcomed her on that first uncertain day, brought her tea before Grace's first public lecture. "The first lecture always brings butterflies. Is it that obvious I'm nervous?" Grace asked. "Not nervous," Eleanor corrected, standing at a threshold. The auditorium was filling with academics, spiritual seekers, and curious minds drawn by the news that a respected researcher had found connections between ancient wisdom traditions and Cayce's readings. "I received another letter today," Grace told Eleanor. She described memories of a past life in ancient Greece that match records I found in the Athens archives, details she couldn't possibly have researched herself. "The soul memories are awakening in many now," Eleanor observed. "Your work is helping create a framework for understanding these experiences." Jacob arrived with Leah, the young woman Grace had comforted on the beach months earlier, now transformed from despair to quiet confidence. "The meditation techniques you taught me helped me access my own healing abilities," Leah explained. "The cancer markers are still there, but the tumor has disappeared. My doctors call it spontaneous remission." "And you?" Grace asked. "What do you call it?" "Soul remembering. My body remembered how to heal itself, just as you said. The knowledge was always there across lifetimes." In the month since their beach encounter, they had discovered multiple shared past lives, as priestesses in ancient Egypt, as nurses during the Civil War, as mother and daughter in colonial America. Each incarnation linked by healing through the integration of spiritual and physical knowledge. Later, Grace stood at the podium before the filled auditorium. In the front row sat her soul family, Leah, Jacob, and Eleanor. Behind them was Michael, offering an encouraging smile. "We gather today at the intersection of memory and possibility, of scientific inquiry and spiritual wisdom," Grace began. "For centuries, these realms have been artificially separated, yet Cayce's work suggests they are different languages describing the same fundamental reality." As she spoke, weaving together historical evidence, case studies, and personal experience, she felt a profound alignment of purpose. Why do souls reincarnate? Why return to physical form again and again? She asked the attentive audience. "Through my research, certain patterns have emerged." She displayed a spiral diagram moving upward through planes of existence. Souls return to Earth not as punishment, but as purposeful participants in their own evolution. Each lifetime offers lessons that can only be learned through physical experience. She explained how karma functions not as cosmic punishment, but as spiritual physics. Every action creating an energetic imprint that must eventually be balanced through understanding and compassion. "Your life is not a random accident," Grace emphasized. "Your soul has journeyed through countless experiences, to arrive at this precise moment. The challenges you face, the talents you possess, the people who surround you, all are part of a tapestry you helped weave before taking your first breath. She concluded with passion. Your soul keeps returning to Earth because you are needed here. Your unique gifts, your hard-won wisdom, your capacity for love, all are essential instruments in the orchestra of humanity. When enough of us remember our true nature, we will create what the ancients called heaven on earth, not as a place we go after death, but as a reality we manifest through awakened living. A profound silence followed her words, the sacred stillness of collective recognition, before the audience rose to their feet. That evening, Grace walked alone on the beach. Her journey had come full circle, from the frightened woman who had arrived seeking answers to the integrated being who now helped others find their way. As darkness fell, she closed her eyes in meditation and perceived what Cayce had described. As the web of life, countless souls connected across time and space. Reincarnation, she now understood, was not simply about individual soul growth, but about collective evolution. Each person who remembered their eternal nature created a ripple effect, helping others awaken to their own deeper truth. She wrote in the sand, "We return until we remember. We remember so all may return to wholeness." The incoming tide would soon erase her words, but the truth they expressed was eternal. Grace smiled, feeling profound gratitude for the journey. Her soul would likely return to Earth again, but now she understood why. Not because she was bound to the wheel of karma, but because she chose to participate in the great unfolding of consciousness. Rising to her feet, Grace turned toward the lights of the A.R.E. Center. Tomorrow would bring new seekers with questions of their own, and she would be there to welcome them, continuing the ancient tradition of passing wisdom from soul to soul across the bridges of time.